Hello, everyone. Welcome to the pod with Garrett L. Conan. And I have the great pleasure of speaking with Loka today. So, Loka, welcome.
Thank you, Garrett. It's glad to be here. Just really appreciate you taking the time out and conversing.
Absolutely. Well, instead of me kind of going through your bio, why don't you give the audience just a little preview of kind of an introduction of who you are?
Oh, thank you. So, hi, I'm Loka Pandya. I'm a real estate investor that also had gone through my own joy journey. I've traveled to retreats all over the world seeking joy, and I found what I feel like is the formula to joy. I'm the most joyful version of myself that I've ever been, and I want everyone to feel as joyful as I am.
That's wonderful. And I'm super excited to dive into this conversation and talk about joy and all the intricacies and how others can find joy in their life and in themselves.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And so talk to me. You have some joy toys. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so I own four DeLoreans. One's built out like the DeLorean time machine. I have a 1989 Batmobile replica. I have a fire truck, and then I have like this late 80s Cadillac limo with like a dually at the back. And so, yeah, I call my joy toys. They're fun. I do a lot of charity with them, and so we go to like children's hospitals, bring them a lot of joy. But then I just drive them around Dallas. I'll take them to Clyde Warren Park, spread joy. I usually have these bubbles in them. Yeah,
Yes,
right.
we were blowing some bubbles before we
Yeah.
started to get us in the mood. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I drive them around, and it's amazing to see, especially with the DeLorean time machine, how much joy people get out of it. And it's a great moment for me because I always let them know. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I see the joy coming out of you." They get so excited. I was like, "That means that it's in you." And so this car brought it out, but it's coming out of you. It's not because of this car. You already have it. So how can you have more joy in your life? And so I love bringing them out there because it reminds people that they are the joy that they're feeling. You've got to give yourself permission to have joy. And we don't. We absolutely don't. We don't think we're allowed to. We think that's childlike or
We're above it.
childish. Yes.
We think we're above it. We're adults now. We can't play with bubbles. We
Yep.
can't jump in a puddle. We can't.
Yep. Yes. I love that puddle thing because it's the little things. It's the absolute little things. You asked me about these fountains, and I've got a towel in my car because every now and again I feel like just run through a fountain. You see kids do it all the time. Why not?
Why not?
There's a release that happens there, right? Like the control is released. You get out there, you get wet. You're okay, cool. What's happening? And then you're like, all right, I'll go dry off a little later on. But we resist that because then we might think, oh, we got to dry off. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do these different things. No, just allow ourselves to have it.
And I would also say you dry off, but the joy and the energy you got from that experience sticks with you
Yeah.
throughout your day.
Yep.
And that's where you can really start to feel the energy and it flows with you throughout the day. And that's, a small thing is I work out in the morning and I can sense that energy flows with me throughout the day.
Yeah. I'm just learning the workout thing.
Mm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a whole different energy. It's a whole different vibe. So I'm deep into meditation. I do breath work, but I just started really getting into working out again this year. And it's like, I'll do my meditation. I'll do my workout, which I'm like, man, it sees the day energy out there. You're pumped up. You're good to go. Then I get my breath work that kind of grounds me a little bit because I can get too pumped up on those endorphins, and you get out there, you go for a walk, but it carries you all the way through most days. And some days, if it doesn't carry me all the way through, it gets me like 5 or 6 o'clock, have dinner, relax out. You're good. It's awesome.
You feel good even if you don't get the energy boost, but at least you did something good for your health.
Yeah.
And you'll be thankful for it in the morning, or maybe not when you're sore, but in a good way.
Yeah. Well, someone asked me this morning. I was literally having a conversation. They're like, okay, I've seen you on Instagram. Someone connected us. I'm finally getting to meet you. She's like, how do you do it? I'm like, what? He's like, how do you stay joyful all the time? And I said, it's a routine. Like, you've got to be intentional about it. I literally have a joy routine every single morning. And joy routines sound like, oh, okay, I'm going to play and have fun and dance. No, it starts with meditation that grounds me. Then I go into my workout that gets those endorphins going. I do my breath work that kind of comes back and grounds me a little bit. I'll go for a walk or dance, usually to music, or I'll talk to someone that fills my cup up, or I'll send someone a joyful video because joy is connection. And so I've got the actual act of joy sprinkled in, but it's doing everything that keeps me grounded, keeps my endorphins going, and gets me into joy. So now you've started your morning off that way. I say the more joy you do, the more joyful you become. You don't have to wait for something to have the experience of joy. You're now creating it for yourself every single day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe, and as you alluded to, it's the simple things. It's the workout, or whether it's the meditation or just a walk. It's stuff that you appreciate. You're present, because that's what meditation is.
Yeah.
And I feel like joy is people put that on a pedestal, like I mentioned. So maybe another word that people think is what they, I guess, enjoy is part of that.
Yeah. Listen to music, dance, paint, create. Joy is creation. Do crafts. I had a really good friend of mine, like he was battling a little bit of his drinking issues. He was looking to get into meditation. I looked and pushed him into meditation, and he got into it a little bit. And then like a year from then, he was in such a great spot. And I asked his wife, I was like, what happened? Is he meditating more? She's like, no. He's like, every week he does a different craft. He's creating something. I'm like, what? She's like, origami. He built a chair, put a Lego set together. It blew my mind. Right? A creative outlet out there completely shifts someone that was having a drinking issues, had ups and downs in life. Boom. It's been like 7 years. He's solid. He's made so many things. And I asked him about it. He's like, the coolest thing is I have this creative outlet, but it's even more fun when I give it to somebody.
That's an incredible story.
It's cool. I'm like, wow. It's the connection part of joy is happening. The creative part of joy is happening. So people look at meditation as like, oh, I got to sit. It can be anything you want it to be. It's just having that awareness or wherewithal or a creative outlet.
I think the creation part is so on point, because I feel like we're natural creators. We do this stuff as a child, and then you're put in the corporate world and you forget about your passions in art, or you just get sucked away in the lifestyle and you get tired and low energy. And so therefore you just suck into the screens. And how I say it is, technology is hacking us, and we need to reverse that. And we need to unhack ourselves and listen to our biology and figure out how to do things that actually give us energy, how to give us joy, make us happy. And I think creation is great. In fact, I recently learned how to do glass blowing.
Whoa. Tell me about that.
Oh, Loka, I'm addicted. It's so much fun. And I just went to this place called Seneca in Fort Worth. And they have these courses. They're 4 hours of class for 4 consecutive weeks. And you just build upon the skill level. And it was wonderful because you get to take home, 3 to 4 pieces every single time you go. And so you have this physical representation of your progression, of your skills. You put it there. It's a nice piece to talk about. And like the other gentleman you spoke about who got sober and, gifted his items that he was making, I gifted mine. And to see the face of my grandfather when I gifted him the glass sculpture for his birthday was amazing. And I felt good. He felt good. But in general, just to use your brain differently. I have a job where I'm, in the Excel spreadsheets and talking to a lot of people and solving problems, but then to go into this flow state of focus just on this piece and looking at the heat temperature and understanding the rhythm of the glass blowing and just figuring out how to sculpt it and where I need pressure and working with a partner. So much fun.
I want to do it.
We'll
just
go
sounds
out
so
there and
fun.
Do it. Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's exactly that, right? Always engaging the mind, always learning, always improving, and just having fun. I tell people joy is purposeless. You come in there and you're having fun with it. There's no achievement there. It's learning something new, making something new. I mean, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
I like that. Joy, it's purposeless, but it's kind of pressureless. It just there's no need to perform. You just got to just have fun, do it. Have joy, whether it's playing a sport, art, craft, all that stuff.
It just is. It is because it
Just
is. That's all it is, right? So that's the whole purpose of it. And the thing is, doing joy is a big thing. I say the more joy you do, the more joyful you become. But the one thing I realized that I need to start speaking out more about is just like she asked me this morning, she's like, how do you stay so joyful? And I said, last night I was stressed. She's like, oh, what do you do about that? I was like, you be stressed. I was aware I'm stressed. Cool. Let me get through the day. It doesn't have to be me for the rest of the week. So I was like, let me get some sleep in and start my routine the next morning. See, the thing is, we are this beautiful bucket out there. And what I've learned about joy in life is that all the emotions are a part of your process of joy. Think about anger, right? Like, we get to enjoy these different emotions because they all tell us something. So let's say you've got this bucket here, and anger is red. Put a little red in there, right? And then you go over there, and it's like, you're sad. Sad is a little blue. You put a little blue there. You're putting all these different paint colors in there. But the whole purpose is to experience those and take them out. So anger is an explosive emotion. It's cut from the same cloth as excitement. So get angry in a healthy way. Write about it. Go for a run. Yell about it. I always say journaling is the best way to get it out there, because it's like you get all your thoughts and feelings out there and you start to release it out there. But there's breath work. There's different ways to do it. The problem happens if you stick anger in this bucket and then you stick sadness and say brown is anxiety, and then you put the yellow that's joy. If it stays there, it all comes together and starts to become black. And so then what ends up happening is we push all those emotions deep down inside. Well, the next time we get sad, we get sadder. The next time we get angry, we get angrier because we haven't released that. You may have an angry moment, but you may meet angry people, right? They weren't always angry, but it's that anger that just kept on going in that they didn't have a safe way to release, or they knew the technique to release. And so I tell people, it's like if you're having these different emotions, it's a good thing. But find a healthy way. You could talk to a therapist. You can journal about it. You could talk to a good friend about it. You could sing about it. You can draw about it. You can build something about it. Just get it out, because the actual emotion that I didn't realize of anger, like any emotion, most emotions, I wouldn't say any, most emotions, when you experience them, the chemical reaction in your body is only 90 seconds, right? So when you get angry, your body tells you, oh, I'm angry for 90 seconds. But it's our ego that holds on to it and keeps on putting gasoline on that fire and then pushes it deep down inside. And so one of the key things to joy is to release those emotions.
That's a beautiful analogy. I will definitely be thinking about that the next time I'm angry and need a release, or vice versa, and I'm happy and enjoying that. But I think it is so important, as you mentioned, to feel whatever emotion it is, to feel it.
Yeah.
And then to absorb it, to understand it, recognize it, and then, like you said, to release it, so therefore something else can come in. Hopefully it's a better emotion, and it's okay to be sad. Sometimes we need to be sad to feel certain things, and then the happiness will come hopefully eventually.
Yeah, it will. No one ever out there is constantly feeling the state of joy or happiness or anger or sadness. It'll come and go. We're meant to feel that way. I've been asked about anxiety because I talk about people like, no, anger, okay, get it. Yeah, sadness, but anxiety, no, not anxiety. Like, why anxiety? Like, there's no joy in anxiety. I was like, anxiety is actually a very beautiful emotion. It tells you something that you need to take a look at. And so there's a book called The Wisdom of Anxiety. It says anxiety doesn't come just out of nowhere. It's telling you something. Hey, we need to look at this. It's just like if you get a cut right here, you feel a little bit of pain. And then you look at it, you're like, oh, I'm cut. What do? You go get some Neosporin. You go get a Band-Aid. You go do something to heal it. But if you just sit there and just focus on just the pain and don't do anything about it, well, then you're never going to heal this properly, or it may take longer. Anxiety is the same thing as that pain. It's telling you, hey, maybe there's something in fear over here, or something that you bury deep down inside, or something that you need to face. But it's telling you, hey, there's this leak, right, in the house. But if you don't take care of it, it could get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So anytime I feel anxious about something, I immediately am like, oh, what's it telling me? And so I'll look to journal as soon as possible. And sometimes I don't know what to say. I'm like, I'm feeling anxious. I don't know why. I'll just write and write and write and write and write about it. And sometimes the answer will come out and sometimes it won't. But one of the times I was literally in the middle of a sales call. Someone's pitching me on something. A rush of anxiety came over me. And so in that moment, I took a pause. I talked to the guy. I said, hey, you know what? I had something come up. Would you mind if we continue this in like 15, 20 minutes? I don't think it'll take that long. He said, yeah, not a problem. Got off the call, the Zoom call, sat down there and started journaling. I just got a rush of anxiety. I exactly don't know what it is. And I kept writing and writing and writing, but I'd recently gone through a breakup 3 months before. And I started coming out, and it came out as grief. I'm like, wow, I miss her. And this wasn't a person that I thought I would ever miss, because she was not a very nice person to me, And so when it came out, I'm like, okay, grief came out in the form of anxiety. And so I wrote about that for just a couple weeks just to get it all out. I was good to go. And so I thanked anxiety for that. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for showing me that I had grief deep down inside that I need to release. Otherwise, I would have carried that for weeks, months, years, who knows?
What a powerful new mental model to look at your emotions.
Yeah.
And to see them in a positive light, to figure out how to learn from them. One podcaster who I really enjoy listening to is Alex Hermosi. And what he does is he defines emotions. So for example, stress means he feels that he has a lack of choices. And so therefore he says, okay, how do I solve that? I need to get more choices. And so he defines these terms and then he solves them through whatever the definition is. And then that removes that emotion. That was a very strategic mathematical way to look at something like that, but it makes sense.
I love that. I've never thought about it that way. I think about stress like, oh, let me write about everything that's in my mind out there. But thinking about options, the reason that blew my mind right now is because the reason I was stressed last night is I'm getting married in 26 days.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Thank you. I'm like stoked. But yesterday, the reception venue called me and said, unfortunately, we can't host your reception here anymore. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Right? And I'm the joy guy, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. Every rejection is a redirection. I didn't feel that yesterday. I didn't feel like this rejection was a redirection. And I didn't feel like I had as many options. And that's where the stress came out. And this morning, after I did my routine, I looked at all my other options, and the stress had dissipated. So, yeah. I'm going to take that. Thank
There
you.
it is.
Yeah.
Thank Alex Hermosi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll have to go check him out. That's awesome.
So you mentioned, oh, I'm the joy guy. I can't do this. Do you ever feel that your identity is kind of pictured as this joy guy, and therefore that doesn't allow you to feel certain emotions, or it keeps you at a higher standard?
I did. And then I knew better. Like I realized that the world needs to see the other sides because that's what it is. And to force yourself to be in that joyful state all the time actually is exhausting. Because we're not meant to be at that high level of joy all the time. You've got to rest. You've absolutely got to rest. I look at when I'm in sadness, or if I'm watching a sad movie, or I'm going through like a rougher day, that's a place of rest. I look at everything as expansions and contractions. And expansions are great, contractions are great. They're both good things. In order to expand, you need to contract. In order to contract, you need to expand. Like they just coexist. And so when I'm sad, it's a contraction. So let me contract because I'm resting so that I can expand out into the state of joy. There's a difference of being like feeling joy and being a joyful person. And I realized being a joyful person, they find the joy in all the emotions and in everything in life. And so one of the key ways to do that, even like challenges, once again yesterday, I was in that state of stress, but I always grounded in gratitude. See, it wasn't until 2019 where things clicked for me. I had a lot of gratitude for things, but it was, I used to write about gratitude, the roof over my head, the food on the table, but I wasn't really feeling it. It was coming from here. Those are things I should feel grateful for, But even if I think about like this moment, what I'm grateful for, as soon as I put my hand down, I'm like, oh, this feels nice. Thank you, chair, for supporting me, being here with Garrett, right? I'm grateful for your smile right now because it just made me smile right now. Like, those are things that are just literally coming through right now. But what shifted in 2019 is being grateful for the things that brought me challenges, the things that brought me tragedy and trauma. So one of the things that really got me onto this journey is I lost my mother's suicide when I was 13 years old. And in 2019, I realized it was the best thing that ever happened to me, which is kind of crazy to think because it took me, 22 years for me to actually have that thought that I never thought would come out of my mouth. And the reason that it's the best thing is because it forced me to look for joy for 22 years. Because I couldn't just be in this state of build a real estate company, do these under entrepreneurial ventures and things like that, because I kept on being up and down. So I was seeking healing and I found joy. That would not have happened if I didn't have that tragedy in my life. Otherwise, I'd have just been going about my day, building the company, get married, kids, house, white picket fence, all those, which are all great things. But then I wouldn't be actually seeking joy and now being able to teach people about this. And so when I say it's the best thing that ever happened to me, that means I have gratitude for that event in my life. It's no longer this tragedy. It's now become my superpower, my origin story.
So that's the inflection point, was you using gratitude to then start learning from the challenges, obstacles, adversity you faced. Am I understanding that correctly?
So as I went through the years, I kept on learning all the principles of joy. And so I had gratitude for a lot of things. But you're right, there's a turning point there when I took that event and said, oh, this wasn't such a bad thing for me. It was such a good thing for me because now I'm the most joyful version of myself that I've ever been. And that's where things start to shift to where I'm like, okay, this is what I want to show the world now.
And this is what you've dedicated your life to now?
Yeah, yeah. So I had my hotel real estate company with my brother. And about 2 years ago, I sold all my shares in that. And I said, I want to go 100% into this world. And so I've been speaking on joy kind of all over the world, and then starting to create like a coaching program on it as well, because I realized, I can tactically help people, but let me have a structured approach. Real estate's calling my name again, so I'm going back to that world in some level, but now it's the side job, which is doing better, right? But now I get to actually speak and impact people's lives.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so take me back to that moment when you're 13 years old and you have this life-changing event. And how did that affect your view of life?
Oh, man. What was interesting about that time is I almost treated like it didn't happen. I took that grief and that sadness, that beautiful blue emotion, and I put it in my bucket. And I put it way down there. And part of grief is anger. So I took that in there and I put it way down there. If I ever got anxious, I put it way down there. But what I did is I put out this facade. It's almost like the sad clown. I started all the love and entertain. I used to entertain my mom. I'd dance and do all these fun things around the house. I turned that outward because I needed love from somebody. And so I replaced her love with everyone just admiring my dance moves and telling jokes and all these different things. And so, but I kept on pushing these emotions. And so I realized one of my messages to the world is all about grief, because I had my mom pass away. 3 years later, I'm giving CPR to my grandfather. He passes away. And then after that, I had someone who was an employee of ours, amazing salesperson. Her name was Pamela Powell, and she was just larger than life. Then she passes away. Then I had 2 good friends 3 days before high school pass away. Every single time one of those happened, what did little Loka do? He just put it all deep down inside and had it all turn into black. And so I had to go search on, well, once that black starts happening, it really starts to take over your subconscious mind. And so then you start getting more anxious. Then you hit the rock bottoms. Then I had multiple depressions and didn't want to stay there.
Yeah, that's a lot of death there.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's more that just
Yeah.
kept on coming. But I realized, you know, we call it God, the universe, kept on bringing me these instances that I couldn't just push deep down inside because there's something in me that says, no, I want to look at this. I just don't know how. But I luckily had just the right people, random people. Go to that retreat. Check this out. Oh, you're dealing with this? Talk to this person. So I just kept on seeking. And so when I go down that whole journey and I go back, like at all these deaths I experienced, Pam's actually stood out the most to me. And it's because I was so sad when she passed away. I still remember this. We're walking up to the funeral hall doors. Now, this is the night before. They had like a kind of a get together for everyone that's close the night before. It was like a viewing. And so as I'm going up to the doors, slowly, step by step, I start to hear what sounds like a chuckle on the other side. I'm like, what? I get closer and closer. It gets louder and louder. I slowly open the door, and there's just laughter coming out everywhere. And I'm like, what is going on? And so they had put pictures of her funny pictures. She was just larger than life. Funny pictures of her doing the splits, you know, just like upside down handstands. I mean, this woman was like in her 60s, right? Like just, like I said, larger than life videos. And as you started talking to people about her, you couldn't get more than like a minute in without laughing or smiling because that's the way she lived her life. And I'm like, this is how I want to live my life. Now, it took me a while to get there. But I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's when you pass away, do you want people laughing at your funeral? Obviously, they're going to grieve, right? But as they start uttering anything about you, do you want them telling stories about your impact, right? The joy that you were, the joy that you inspired, the laughter, the smiles, you know?
How you lived your life.
Exactly.
You know, as that person, you pass away, but how did people remember how you lived that life of yours?
Yeah. I want people just laughing nonstop. You know?
Oh, well, the bubble machines will be going, Loka.
Exactly. Everyone's got bubbles. People got bubble machine guns. Like, that's my grand send-off, you know? So...
The anniversary of the passing, just everyone's going to be putting bubbles there, you know?
World Bubble Day,
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Man. But that's, so you had this image in your head of what a life could look like from this, you know, passing and of your you know, your employee, but more than that, a close friend, Pamela there.
Yeah. She was incredible. But then I started just meeting different people like that. And I also got to see that your joy doesn't have to be larger than life. You know, it could be peaceful. They've got these different frequencies that they talk about. Your emotions are a different frequency. They have love, and they have joy, and then they have peace. And so when I think about these, like the gurus of the world, you know, anyone that's like a spiritual leader, you may not necessarily think joy with them, but you think peace. And so I'm like, the more you're in peace, the easier it's to access joy. The more you're in joy, the more it's easy to access love. And I started to think more and more about love and joy and all these different things. And so, like I said, I'm getting married. I call my fiance my joyful life partner, and I call her the joy of my life. And I realized I could call her the joy of my life because I finally become the joy of my life. And so when you become the joy of your life, you start attracting your joy tribe. Like joy is connection and having the right people. And so that can get scary though, right? Because I dance everywhere I go, you know, and I've been called weird, you know, I have. It's one of those things. And so I absolutely used to be like, someone's like, oh man, Loka, you're weird. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm weird. Like, I don't want to be weird, you know? But now
just to hide, but now you're just embrace it and you think whatever you want to think. You don't, doesn't matter to you.
When someone's like, hey, Loki, you're weird, I'm like, oh, thank you for noticing. Oh my gosh, can you see it right now?
You're right.
Literally. And I'll be like, and how can we get your weird out? You know, like why not? And that's a shift in the way they look. Some people may be stuck in there. Oh, okay, I'm not quite ready for that. But other people, it makes them think. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, we all have our own weird, you know? I was like, I'm going out to find the other weirdos that want to hang out with me. I'm sure you want to find the weirdos that want to hang out with you,
It's
you
like,
know?
are you comfortable enough in your own skin to embrace that weirdness of yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like what? You want to be called normal? No.
Yeah, yeah. Like, because we're all different, you know? We're absolutely different. It's just giving themselves permission. And when that word comes in, I wouldn't say like more times than none, but I would say 30, 40% of the time, people start to shift and they start to ask. You know, because I'm not meeting them with anything else besides that. I come out with a joke like, oh, thank you for noticing, but then it starts to open a conversation. And I tell people all the time, once you get into your true joy, whatever that looks like, and you be that person, more people will literally come because you'll find people that will like you for you in that moment, and it'll attract them in. And you'll start having those great conversations. You'll start doing things together. It's just amazing.
That energy, like you said, you'll start attracting them in.
Yeah.
It's a magnet for other people with the same vibration or whatever it is.
Yeah. 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 This whole world's a playground. You go to a playground, not all the kids are playing all the kids. The kids just automatically get attracted to certain kids to play for they don't know what reason. Right? But if one kid's playing Legos, that's their weird, right? Right? One's going down the slide, that's their weird, right? We don't look at it as weird because they're just playing. And so they get attracted to those different things. It's no different than adults.
We're just too scared to embrace whatever it is we want to embrace.
Yeah, go find your play buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's super neat. So what does joy mean to you?
I love that question. I love that question. To me, it's this state of almost bliss. You know, it's like joy is literally a way of life. And so it's where you are smiling more than you're not. You're laughing more than you're not. That's all it is. Because like I said, it goes back to the various emotions. And so just being aware in yourself and being able to enjoy every single emotion is the key. But it's just, I push the 80-20 rule. You know, if I'm angry 20% of the time or sad or anxious 20% of the time, that's great. I actually don't want to be in joy 100% of the time. I want to be able to experience these different emotions because, like I said, they're telling me something. And so, yeah, I think that's just the way I feel. It's just the way you're living life.
When you're talking about ways to feel joy, it reminds me a lot of playing and that sense of play, whatever it is for you, or that flow state, if it happens from work or if it happens from art or happens from creating. And I'm blanking on whether it was a TED Talk or a podcast, but it was like one of the most important things is to find that sense of play in your life.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And remember, once again, it's purposeless. You know, it's
but intentional.
But intentional. Yeah, intentional about your play, but be purposeless. You know, and play could literally be skipping, dancing, singing, creating, reading. Right, because there's a mental play that happens when you read something, especially when it's fictional. You go into your own imaginary world. And so I tell people that you have role models all around you, millions of them. They're called children. Just watch them. They're coming up with games all the time. If I'm in a long line, like at a concert or something like that, I'll get with my Joyful Life partner and be like, hey, let's see who can stand on our one leg the longest. You know, and next thing you know, you have 30 people online doing it. And everyone's like, whoa, 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 right? Like
it's contagious.
Yeah, it's just any sort of thing that's purposeless and fun and play. Get into even game nights. I know people will go out, they'll go party, they'll have like pre-parties and things like that. But when people get together and just play different game nights, the level of connection that happens there because you're actually playing a game with people. Playing by yourself is great. But remember as a kid, when you're playing with somebody else, it takes it to the next level.
We're also innately social beings too.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it goes back to, right, like play by yourself, and play with somebody else. So I always tell people also that make your joy lists out there. What are all the things that you enjoy as play? Who are all the people you enjoy playing with? Where are all the places in your life locally that feed your cup or make you feel joy? Is it a park? Is it by the fountains? Is it hiking? And so when it comes back to the people, I always tell people, I've got 3 categories for people. There's the moths, the flies and the butterflies. A lot of people forget about the flies. The moths are the energy vampires, people that suck your time, suck your energy. Some people you may not be able to get away from. It's even family members. People are like, well, what do you do about them? I was like, minimize your time, set your boundaries. They're your family, okay? But know when that energy is going out. And then there's the butterflies. Make your butterfly list. I tell everybody, make your butterfly list. People that you enjoy laughing with, fill your cup up, learn something from, enjoy playing with, feel safe with, feel comfortable with, can talk to anything about. Make that butterfly list. The people that you just know you love spending time with. And then there's the flies. The flies are people that are in your life that are not necessarily energy vampires. They're not necessarily people that fill your cup up, but they're just kind of there. And sometimes you might be just collecting a lot of flies, you know, right? Right? One fly, not so bad. Two fly, not so bad, right? But if you get like 100 flies around, right? And a lot of times these flies can turn into moths for a little bit, become into butterflies. I've got a few flies in my life that become a little bit more butterflies than just flies. Great. But if you have a fly there that comes into like the moth side, that comes into fly, it comes into moth and comes into fly, maybe someone you want to set a bigger boundary with or not have in your life.
That's an interesting way of, categorizing people. And for those individuals that collect a lot of flies, what do you think that tells you about them?
So many different things, right? I can't speak to everyone, but I know mine came from that I wanted everybody to be my friend. More so, I wanted everybody to like me. So, okay, the more people that I have in my life that just like me, okay, the more I feel worthy or valued. And so I would just say, look at each one of those connections and ask yourself, why do I have them in my life? Do they fill my cup up? Do they take away? Or does it make me feel better? Is it in a place from like fear that I don't want to lose anybody? Or I lost my mother, so I don't want to lose anybody. And that's what my therapist came and say, you tend to just collect people because you don't want to lose anybody. That fear kind of came out. So I just come back and say, what is your true feeling and intention with every single person that you're connected with? Because I'd say having a great, big connected network is great, but why do you have them in your life?
And also, I think a lot of people use socialization as a distraction. And they have FOMO. They want to feel included. They want to do everything, go everywhere, don't want to miss something. And therefore, they don't really know who they are themselves.
Yeah.
So when they're making their list of what they find enjoyable and their joy list, it's not very long. So how does someone who doesn't really know who they are find things they enjoy?
Great question. Go back to your childhood. What did you enjoy as a child? Did you like building Legos? A lot of times when you see people their children that like building Legos, a lot of times you'll see them as engineers or architects. You know, that kind of comes in. Did you like kickball? Did you like singing, dancing, swimming? Were you always outside playing? Were you inside playing? If so, what were you doing inside? Go back to everything in childhood. If you can't exactly remember, ask your parents. Ask your family members, ask your brothers, ask your sisters. You'll start to see, were you out there digging in the grass, you know, and looking for something? And so maybe you're going to do something where you do a scavenger hunt or you do a bucket list thing all over the world. Like, just go back to what you enjoyed as a child and then see how you can bring that into your adult life. Mine was dancing. And so I've carried that through. But I've talked to people and coached people, and so many times people into arts and singing is like, I have not done this in years. Playing piano, playing instruments, all those different things as a child that they came out. Child or a little older as well. All the things they really enjoyed. And you could even take it up. Like maybe there's something in middle school that you really enjoyed. Maybe there was a sport, something that you did, extracurricular activity out there. Go back to all the things that look like play or creating things, and then bring that into your life today.
I think those are great suggestions. And personally, what you said about things that felt like play or that you were in a flow state, And I did a lot of informational interviews to find a job in college for post graduating. And looking back, I realized I actually really enjoyed that because I, reached out to someone, I researched them, I came up with these questions, and I thought I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. They're gonna be so impressed with this question. I've dug deep in their backgrounds and all of that. And now I'm sitting here interviewing you on a podcast where I've just done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And the energy that I get and the flow state, I mean, I spend a good 3-4 hours just researching and coming up with these questions. I love it. Yeah. And then during this conversation, honestly, I was super tired right before you came, and I was like, oh, it's been a long day, but knocked out some push-ups, and now, I mean, looks like I'm pretty energetic.
Yeah, you're in your joy, man. Like, absolutely. And
this will keep me going for hours after this conversation.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, it may be a little hidden is what I'm getting at, of what you do enjoy. But you just got to think about, when were you in that flow state?
Yeah.
And whether it's in your childhood, adolescent, recently, find it and enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you said the push-up thing too, right? I was actually tired before this too. I was like, man, I want to do this. I took a nap, got ready, danced around for a little bit. Right outside, I was actually dancing, seeing myself in the mirror to Ed Sheeran, Peru. I was like, Peru, Peru, Peru. And it just kind of shot it back up. And so, but getting into that state, so even making that list, actually is a very important point. If you make your joy list when you're tired or you're stressed out, it's probably going to be a tired, stressed out joy list.
Shocker.
Yeah, exactly. But if you've done it right after you've done push-ups, or you worked out, or you just hung out with somebody that filled your cup up, you start to think about the things that bring you joy. You're in that state of flow, and you'll see more things come out. And I'll tell people, even take like a Post-it note and just write things down. And do like a 15, 20-minute session of just things from childhood. But you'll find the surface level things that you remember right away. Just keep writing. No matter what comes out of your head. You could even just write like dancing and singing, and then the word milk might come up. Write down milk. Dirt may come up. Just write down dirt. It's a creative state. A lot of writers use this. Even in speaking, they do this. It's keep on writing these things down, because the deeper you go down that kind of rabbit hole, the more things you'll start to remember coming out of your childhood, or more things just may come up that actually bring you joy that are just deep down in there that you can't think about. And so if you do that, and I've told people, you do that like 3 or 4 times a week for like a month, you're going to have tons of things. You've just got to be intentional about, let me seek it. Let me find it. And the other thing is, maybe it's something that you haven't discovered yet. You just talked about glass blowing, So try new things. Get out there. Search the internet on new things, fun things to try, and create.
And if you're looking for people to meet or friends, great opportunity to find something that you like to do together.
Yeah, because glass blowing, I'm pretty sure you're finding other adventurous people out there that like to try new things. Your joy tribe or your joy girlfriend or your joy wife or your husband may be out there too. Who knows,
Exactly. Just got to keep trying.
Yeah.
It wasn't out there for me glass blowing yet, but you never know.
Hey,
got a couple more classes.
Keep being in your joy. Trust me. Took me 39 years.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so what were you looking for in those 22 years from your mom's passing to 2019 when you had that inflection point? What were you looking for that you didn't quite find or didn't quite feel that you now do?
I didn't feel grounded. I was looking for balance because I was this constant roller coaster. I'd get to this place of where I thought I was in this happy place, but then I'd crash down. And a lot of it was linked to, in my situation, it was codependency. Because I lost my mother, abandonment issues, I had a lot of codependency. I didn't realize it. I created all these codependent relationships with the flies. And then in relationships, and then even with family members. So that was a piece of it. But it wasn't just codependency. It was just the constant, feeling good, not feeling good. Feeling good, not feeling good. And it wasn't like, oh, one day I'm feeling good, or one day. No, it'd be like, a month or two feeling really good, and then 3 months of just being down, but having to put on this facade that I'm good. And so that gets exhausting. And so I was looking for, what does true happiness and joy feel like? Because I knew it wasn't this up and down situation that I kept on going through. As I kept on going to more retreats and talking to more people, it slowly started to get to a more grounded place. And that's the biggest thing about joy is it's grounded. And I don't think that's talked about enough.
What does that mean to be grounded?
Grounded, you feel balanced. You feel, I wouldn't even say in control. It's just like you're not wavering as much. Your mind is you're more centered. And so, where you're not having this huge swing of emotions, you experience them and release them, as opposed to just experience them and then keep on experiencing them until you push them to your downside.
Would you say that your upper and lower bound of happiness and sadness has kind of been compressed? So you're now fluctuating between, this baseline and the upper and lower bounds, and it's not as extreme?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's like a floor to how low I can feel. And then the high highs, and I gotta find a better way to describe this. It's a grounded high. It's a grounded happiness. It's a grounded excitement. It's not chasing it anymore. It's more like, oh, I'm in this state. This is amazing. This too shall pass. This too shall change. And that's okay. As opposed to in the past, I kept on reaching for higher and higher, higher because I wanted to stay in that state because I had been down here and I didn't want to go back down there. But I inevitably would go back down there.
Do you get the same amount of joy from bubbles as you do traveling to your favorite destination, or let's say you love, jumping out of planes? Basically, do you get the same amount of joy from the simple things as you do from the more extravagant things in life?
It changes every single time. I may blow bubbles today and feel like I'm on vacation. I may blow bubbles tomorrow and it lies flat. What brings you joy, and that's why I say make the joy list, it's just like food. All right, I love pizza. I'm going to have it today. I'll have it the next day. I'll have it the next day. But if I have pizza every single day, okay, it may not taste the same. I may not feel the same way. And so there's been times when I've been vacation where I felt amazing. But there's other times of vacation where I'm like, okay, this feels more of a rest. I literally slept most of the time because I'd been so busy. Whereas I could come back from work and blow bubbles. I'm like, yes, this is amazing. And so it's not this or that, it's this and that. And so just continue to, the thing with vacation is a lot of people wait for the vacation. And so just like with my Joyful Life partner, people are like, are you going to take a honeymoon? I was like, our life is a honeymoon, And I mean it isn't like, let's live it that way. The same thing. Live vacation. And what does that mean? Not like, oh, we're just having the time of our lives all the time. It's what happens when you're on vacation? You feel free. You're doing things that you want. You're experiencing new things. You're spending time a lot of times outside. Do that in your everyday life. And so it's always a joy to experience another destination. I went to Bali. I was like, wow. What I loved about it the most is meeting other people. And so that reminded me when I come back, let me continue to meet other people.
Take the vacation back home with you.
Exactly. You'll learn lots of things. I think vacations are amazing because you learn a lot about the world, but you learn more about yourself.
I totally agree. Whether it's a destination or even the people, especially.
Yeah.
And the similarities you have and the lifestyles, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned as well, you started pouring, the different colors into this bucket from the sadness, the anxiety, and that built up and it was black. At what point did you just feel that weight where you're like, I need to do something about this?
It was a beautifully toxic relationship that came into my life. It was fun until it wasn't. And when that came crashing down, it took me down to the depths. I had multiple rock bottoms, but that was a deep one. And I don't know if I can remember the exact quote, but there's a quote about rock bottom. It said the best thing about rock bottom is the rock part. Discover the solid bit of you, the bit that cannot be broken down any farther, the part that you might sentimentally call a soul. At our lowest, we find the solid ground of our foundation and build ourselves anew. And after that, I'm like, okay, like this is enough. I've gone all over the world, learned about this stuff, but I hadn't been implementing it. And so I started implementing it at a deeper level and learning even more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. And that's when everything started shifting. It took me about a year and a half to 2 years. But once I really just got intentional about my joy, made my joy routine, and focused on it and said, okay, the first year I'm like, oh, there's something wrong. We got to fix. After that, I'm like, no, 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 no. It's just when the emotion comes up, release it. If something from the past comes up, release it. I had a lot of trauma and tragedy, so I had a therapist to ground me. So if anyone's going through that, I definitely recommend having someone for the bigger things like that. Otherwise, just continue to release those emotions. But that really shifted me in a big way.
So for someone that is on that rock bottom or thinks that they're heading that way, what would your advice be to them?
So one of the first things I would say is, if you can, get a therapist, because you've hit that point for a reason, and they can help you kind of come out of it, or help you make heads or tails of that. And then slowly start implementing things just like we talked about. It may be tough. It may be tough, but get yourself into some sort of state of joy, whether it's working out, going for a walk, being out in nature, get up and do something, and start making these lists. And if you can't come up with them, start asking your parents, start asking your family members, everyone, on slowly, even if it's just one a day, just putting the thing that could actually bring you joy. The interesting thing about it is, when I was like super down and depressed, I knew all these things, but it was tough. And so I still remember I was laying in bed. I hadn't gotten in bed. It's like 7 or 8 o'clock. I hadn't eaten. And so I just reached for my phone and called one of my closest friends and just let him know this is how it's been feeling, and let him know that I've actually been feeling about this for like a couple weeks now. And he's like, well, why didn't you call me? And he's like, why didn't you eat? And I'm like, I'm not hungry. And so we just started talking, and he just was just there to listen. And so just reaching out to him started giving me a little bit of energy. And it's funny because he was eating cereal, and his spoon was hitting the side of the bowl. And something in my brain said, I'm hungry. And he's like, and I just went silent for a little bit. He's like, you're all right. He's like, I'm really hungry right now. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I just heard you eating. I'm hungry. I went there, ate. Once I got food in my system, I actually skipped. It's a weird thing to do when you're down there, but I was just like, I skipped, and it started to shift. I started to smile a little bit. It hit me just a little bit, right? I was still down, but it was just enough to start turning the corner to where then I could start journaling about my feelings. And so whatever it is, just taking a small step, whether you can do it today or the next day, just little by little, whether you're journaling, you call somebody, skip, do something physical. It's one of the quickest ways. If you're deep down in it, do something physical, because it'll change your body physiology. It'll change your chemicals. It'll get you going. It's not going to fix it. It's not going to fix it, but at least it'll get you going.
I think that's so critical, is changing your physiology. I know Tony Robbins always talks about that, is that's the catalyst for everything else. That's the domino, that once you push that domino, the others will start to go. I mean, let's say you're a writer and you're just having writer's block. Don't just stick yourself there and try and write and force it. Try and do something tangentially related, or go and put forth energy and do something physical, and then that energy will hopefully flow into releasing that writer's block or whatever it may be.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think there's the shamans used to say something when someone was sad, that they come to the healer. And when they started talking about all their problems and things like that, they would listen to them. So now they've been heard. And then they'd ask them a few questions. They said, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop getting enchanted by stories? When did you stop doing art? And so that just kind of reminds us, right? Even the singing physiology gets things going. It's all chemically in here. So you're absolutely right, like moving your body. But think about, is there a way you can move it in a way that brings you joy? Because there is the push-ups and going to the gym and things like that. But getting back to, if you can sing, if you can dance, something that you remember bringing you joy. Well, then you're hitting it with two sides of it.
So if someone has a friend that is, a little down in the dumps and maybe they've gotten broken up with or whatever it is, they're going through a tough time, how, as a friend, can you help them find their joy again?
So what I always tell people first and foremost, just be a listening ear. Just listen to them and let them know that they're not a burden. Because many times what happens is we're there for them at the beginning, but then they just keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. Now, you also don't want to go all the way down that road, right? So let them release it, but do things with them. If they want to talk about it, go for a walk in nature. Go to a yoga class. Oh, let's go do this. Go do active things that will shift their body, because you can listen to them and you can give advice. But just like we talked about before, is if you can get them to start moving their body, getting out in the sun, even if y'all are just sitting out in the sun, it starts to release serotonin, which is a mood stabilizer. And so one of the biggest things is just get them out in nature, get them walking, get them moving. That'll help them even more than any sort of just listening for hours and hours and hours. You definitely want to listen to them, but if you can get them to move their body more and more and more, and then encourage them to journal, it'll be doing wonders for them. And they can verbally journal with you, because they're just telling you everything that they're feeling.
See, that wasn't so difficult. You can now write that down similar to what you just said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think using voice memos is similar to journaling?
Yeah. Because the thing is, there is this resistance to journaling. I used to have it, I used to have it all the time. I used to write, people like journal, and I used to write, okay, woke up, brushed my teeth, went to the bathroom, tripped over a stick, which was a broom. I called it a stick because I wasn't using it, I knew what I did that day, but I didn't know how I felt. And so one of the biggest things I tell people is, okay, write down how you're feeling. But if you can't pick up the pen and paper, do a voice note. Do an Apple note if you need to, or an Android note. Or when I was in that dark space, my sister, I love her so much, said, you know what? Just text me all your thoughts at the end of the day, because at night was the toughest. And she's like, I'm not going to judge you for it. And all I do is like it. And if you need me to respond, just text R if you want me to respond. And so the first time, I'm really sad, I'm really depressed, this sucks, I don't even know if I want to be here anymore. Second day, third day, the same thing. Fourth day, it started shifting a little bit. Fifth day, I started feeling a little better. By the 8th day, my thoughts weren't even that dark at all. And by the 10th day, this was a great day. Just because two things happened. One, I journaled to someone who cared. So there's connection there, but I was releasing the emotions that were actually coming out and being intentional about, oh, this is okay. I'm aware. Because if you keep writing, I'm sad, something in your subconscious mind says, I don't want to be sad all the time. What can we look for different? And then what I learned later on in life is that write that journal entry. I'm sad. But find the one gratitude thing that you can be grateful for that day. So no matter what it is, ground every entry in gratitude. It could be literally, I'm grateful for this pen. But you want to feel true gratitude. It can't come from up here. Because if you do that, then your subconscious mind has this switch where you're sad, but there's this gratitude there that peaks into joy and in love. And so it's saying we're just not going to stay in this heavy emotion. We're actually going to have a little of this higher vibration emotion coming out.
The power of gratitude.
Huge. It's one of the foundations of joy. I tell people that all the time. It can shift anything. Just the other day, it's something small. I stubbed my toe so hard on my bathroom door. It hurt, right? It hurt. I shrieked. My Joy for Life partner was like, you okay? I fall onto the bed, right? Super dramatic, flopping all over the place. Like, what is going on? And I'm like, my foot hurts, my toe hurts. And as I started to think about it, and so as the pain was there, somehow gratitude came in. And immediately I'm like, oh wow, I'm grateful for something here. I'm like, oh, I'm grateful that I still have my toe. I'm grateful that I have a nice apartment that I could stub my toe on. And then it led to, oh, I'm grateful that I have a joyful life partner here that cares for me here. That says, hey, you want me to rub it? I'm like, no, it's cool. Like it would make it hurt more. But then all those things started coming in, and the pain in the foot made me grateful for being alive. It means if I can feel pain, that means I'm alive. In an overall good situation, I'm just feeling the pain. And so that really got me from experience joy to being a joyful person, because the sooner you can get into gratitude about a situation, the better. Many times in life, someone will look at a bad situation 5 years later and said, I wouldn't have it either any other way. That's gratitude. They may not say I'm grateful for that situation. They're like, hey, I wouldn't change anything for the world because it built me for who I am. But what if they could do that the day after the situation happens? Say someone gets in a car wreck, and in the hospital, like, I know that something good is going to come from this, or I'm grateful that it happened because this was happening in my life and it slowed me down, whatever it is. The sooner you can become grateful for something, the easier it'll be into joy all the time, more than none. Like I said, you can get to that 80-20 rule, especially if you experience, like, practice gratitude.
And why not?
Yeah.
Would you want to be complaining about stuff, or would you rather be grateful for it and turn it on its side and live a more enjoyable life?
Yeah. It shifts everything. Like my brother's wedding last year, we do these elaborate skits. I ordered all this stuff to the hotel. At the hotel, it's so big they have a UPS store in the hotel. Long story short, they told me it closed at 5 o'clock. This is the day of the reception. They actually closed at 4. And so I roll up there at 3:58. The guys closed the store down. And I'm like, hey, I need this for the wedding reception. He's like, we're closed. I was like, please, like, we've been planning months for this. We're closed. I'm down on my knees, right? I'm down on my knees, just like, please, 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 like, we need this, we need this. He's like, we're closed. And even the joy guy, ego kicks in, right? I'm like, hey, you need to get back in there. I need to get those packages out. That ain't going to do it. He looked at me, and he started walking. The second I realized that, I was like, how dare I be so unkind to this man, right? Like, I don't know what's going on here. So I completely switched. I said, hey, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have treated you that way. I'm just in some stress. Remember that. I'm in stress. Stress ignited ego right away. But awareness happened right away. Said, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I bothered you on it. And he's like, that's not a problem. Maybe one of the managers can help you. I've got to go. And so in that exact moment, I've got 20 minutes to get this stuff, 20 minutes. And so before everything starts to kick off, but I got into meeting gratitude. I'm like, I'm so thankful for this guy, because he taught me that when I'm in stress, I can get an ego. I could treat someone unkind. Like, thank you for showing me that, hey, when I get in stress, be more aware of that and how I'm treating other people. Right after that, I went from stress to like gratitude to actually love. I got back into joy, threw on my headphones, felt good, cool. Talked to like 7 different people there saying, this is my situation. If we get it, great. If not, no worries, but please, I'd love it. 7 minutes later, I've got everything, and they hand delivered it to me. And so it was the fact that I got into gratitude that shifted everything for me to say this was happening for a reason, that he taught me a lesson by saying no to me, instead of looking like, man, what's this guy, like, no, great, appreciate it. I'm going to thank him for the rest of my life, because from that moment on, when I start to get into stress, I'm automatically aware that, hey, I'm in stress. Watch how you treat people, because just because I'm in stress doesn't mean I can treat anybody any less.
Ego is powerful there, most certainly, and you got to watch that.
Yeah.
But gratitude is equally as powerful there.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know about joy, if you were to teach a high school or college course, what would be in the curriculum?
Grounding would be huge. Huge.
How
huge,
so?
huge,
What
huge.
tools, what practices, what knowledge, physiology?
Love that. So I would say meditation's a huge one. Okay. Breath work is huge. Walking. And what I mean by walking is there's different ways to walk. Now, there is a way where if you walk barefoot in the grass, there's a grounded thing that happens when you get connected with the earth. There's actually science shows on how your whole nervous system starts to calm down. But the other thing that I've actually practiced is walking slowly, because we're going so fast in life. If you actually wake up in the morning and just walk very slowly to the restroom and walk slowly on the way back, it slows everything down. Just like as I'm slowly talking, can you see the energy just to kind of ground out, right? That's what happens. Absolutely happens there. And so you can slowly walk, even if you're at the gym working out. If you're this, okay, and if you want to pump yourself up, great. But if you slowly look at it as a grounding exercise, because that's a meditation. Because I got a lot of gym goers like, no, I don't meditate. I was like, just be completely in the moment with every lift and do it really, really slowly and see how everything just starts to calm down around you. And so those are the main ways that I've seen that grounds. Even there's people out there that ground through reading something that could be spiritual or religious or something that makes them feel more grounded or at peace in the morning is huge for feeling grounded. So that's one of the main things that I would talk about at the very beginning. Because if you're in a state of fear, then it's tough to get into joy. And so being in that grounded place, you're not going to feel fear as much. And then after that, I would say, okay, because I know everyone else in the singing and dancing and all that. So you've got the groundedness. The next step is going to be emotions, emotional awareness, emotional release. And so having the techniques, and there are techniques outside of journaling. There's breath work that you can do to release emotions. There's creative ways to release emotions. So we'd go on a whole course or a whole section on how to release emotions in a healthy way. And then also simultaneously, there would be mindfulness exercises and meditation exercises on just being aware of how you're feeling. Anytime you're either anxious or stressed or angry, the first thing that happens is your breath starts to change faster, shallower. It happens all the time. If you're super sad, it gets really deep. And so we would teach breath work as well, because there's I wouldn't say manipulation, but you're being able to change your state without actually having to work out. And so that would be like one of the pieces there. And then you get into what fills your cup up in joy. And so we would teach it in that fashion, because a lot of people will play, but if that foundation isn't there and you're not being aware of your emotions, then you've got this bucket of all the black paint and you keep putting the yellow on top. That's great, but it's going to seep into the black eventually.
Just be absorbed by what's been already inside of you forever.
Yeah, because that's what's trained your subconscious mind. You know, if that black is a lot of stress, well, you're a stressed out person, so you can sprinkle some joy. You'll feel it momentarily, but you'll get back into that state. So we've got to release a lot of that stuff out while also putting in the joy, but we would teach it in that matter, because if we can ground, be aware of our emotions, or release our emotions, that's going to lead to a joyful life.
Clear out the system. That way you can put in the work.
Yeah. And that can happen even on a daily basis. I tell people all the time, every single time I cry, I want to say every, most times, after I cry, I'll either do something joyful, or I have a Smile Loka music playlist. I have a Smile Loka folder on my iPhone that's all the videos and pictures of my friends and family or notes that bring me joy. I've now got like 200 to 250 things I can immediately look at that bring me joy. What people don't realize is once you have cried or gotten angry or released that emotion, your heart is wide open. Your whole energy system is wide open. And so what you put in next starts to get programmed in your subconscious mind. And so now a cry is associated with joy. An anger is associated with joy, because my subconscious mind knows once we've released this, there's a smile or laughter coming at the end of this. Now, it becomes a little difficult in relationships because we'll get angry, everything is good, but then like the smile is like, something funny? And I'm like, no, I'm just enjoy, but we'll figure this out.
I can imagine the tension that arises there.
Yeah. But luckily she's pretty chill.
Yeah.
So she knows, she gets it.
I'm sure she's got to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so you mentioned all these retreats that, friends were recommending and other people were recommending. Talk to me about either an interesting retreat you went on where you learned something or some interesting people that you learned from on these retreats.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, where do I start? So one of the biggest ones that have impacted me is a retreat called Vipassana. Vipassana, the entry-level course to go is a 10-day silence and meditation camp. You have to stay for 10 days. What's great about it's actually completely free. Room and board, everything's free. It's all donation-based. And so that was the first moment, because I lost my mother when I was 13, but it wasn't until I was 20 where I actually started pulling the black out. And in that retreat, it was day 6 where I just cried and cried and cried. And I realized that all this grief from all the deaths all the way up until 20 have been pushed deep down inside. But it's interesting, when you get into 10 days with your own thoughts, everything starts to come out, good and bad. I've had so many solutions and creative solutions and business solutions come out of that. And I've had all this tragedy and trauma and emotions start to come out. And so one thing I learned there, it's in silence where we heal. It's in silence where we can actually find our most creative form. And so if you think about it, when you talk to people, like, where do they get their best ideas? In the shower. Because if they're not listening to music, they're just going through the motions. And people have their shower ideas. People say, are you a car crier or a shower crier? Right? If the car is silent and the shower is silent, you're releasing emotions. And so I started releasing. I was like, oh, like taking those breaks in silence, not even to do meditation, just sitting there in silence for 10, 20 minutes a day, releasing all the stresses and all the emotions that kind of come out of the day is huge for us. And so that retreat taught me that, like, we got to slow down.
That's something that I've learned recently. As you can imagine, I run fast, I walk fast. I always thought it was all about being productive. And that meant multitasking. When I'm cooking, I'm listening to a podcast and learning, or YouTube video. And then I decided after every podcast or YouTube video, I wouldn't listen to anything for, call it 10 or 15 minutes. And I would think about what I just absorbed.
Yeah.
So therefore, or observed, and therefore I would absorb it. And the impact that has made in terms of just taking those lessons learned and actually imprinting them in my mind and applying them in my life, and the creativity, because then you start to kind of connect the dots between what you just watched in your own life or what it may be. So powerful.
Yeah, that's huge, because you're giving your mind some time to actually take it in. And you actually hit on a point that I don't speak about a lot, but it just kicked into my head, is there's meditation and then there's contemplation. Similar but different. Meditation is either focusing on something or kind of letting a release come out, and getting deeper with either focus or your own soul. Where contemplation is, you take a topic and you almost meditate on it or in silence about it. And your mind is now processing it through, just like a computer system has to process something. You're actually allowing it to process to see what you want to keep, what you don't want to keep. And a lot of times you'll find solutions. In these cases, maybe it's just more your implementation plan. Like, how do I implement this? So that's awesome.
I like that. Contemplation. Exactly.
Yeah. If anyone's ever problem solving out there, I'll just tell them, I was like, look, just sit in silence, think about what it is that you're looking to solve, and have a journal right next to you.
Sit in silence? Oh, no, that's so scary.
Yeah.
What? You're going to tell someone this day to sit in silence?
Yeah. Oh,
Not be on my phone and scrolling?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty awesome. There's a breath work called shamanic breath work. It's like circular breathing. It's just nonstop. It's breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And you'll listen to like shamanic music. And I'll do that a lot of times in my contemplation. And I have that breath work going in, so it gets me in a state of flow. And I'll have a journaling right next to me. And just ideas will just flow out of me like crazy.
Kind of triggers something, or it kind of does something in the body. Interesting.
Yeah.
You think it's the shamanic noise? You think it's the breath, or a combination of the two?
It's a combination. Breath work is very underrated. So I always say, like, like yoga was like the meditation's invasion into the U.S., right? Because people got into yoga and then they started meditating. And so, but there's this kind of like soul connection that happens with breath work, where you start to actually even stabilize your body, and so you get into a state of flow a lot quicker. It's like some of the coolest things that you can do, to where you get into like a state of bliss, but that creativity and that flow starts to come out in the breath work.
I mean, it should be pretty powerful. It's something we do naturally in our physiology, but we can actually control it
Yeah,
versus the blood that's coming through us or the other, biology and I don't know, human stuff that happens inside
yeah,
of us. We can actually control our breath
exactly,
and the state of us.
exactly.
When I was listening to some other podcasts you've done and other stuff like that, you mentioned you created Loka as an alter ego.
Yeah.
So please talk to me more about creating this alter ego and how it has helped you.
I love that. So my birth name is actually Alok, and the Sanskrit way to say it is Aloka. Now, so I had Alok and I had Aloka. And when you hear Alok, it's like, okay, that's cool, cool. And you hear Aloka, there's a strength behind it. And so I realized, like, many people out there, like Kobe had Mamba, you know?
David Goggins created Goggins.
Yeah, exactly. Even Beyonce had Sasha Fierce. So there's alter ego out there. And so Alok was the, you know, trauma filled, codependent, couldn't set boundaries, sort of inner child, that was like a hurt little bird or puppy dog. Where Loka set boundaries. He was interdependent. He was confident. There was self love. And so it's someone that I kind of created to where I'm like, okay, when someone was talking to Alok and I needed to kick into Loka, then I'm like, okay, I would literally just flip. I'm like, okay, Loka needs to protect Alok in this situation, because I realize the thing is I love everybody and I want everyone to be enjoyed. I want to protect everyone. It's like I'm service oriented. So if I could actually take care of this guy, you know, it would do wonders for me. And it hit me when one of my closest friends, he's a therapist and a dancer. His name is Robert Anthony. And we were throwing the football around at Clyde Warren Park. And there's a girl that I was seeing that she's just very heavy and negative. There's a bit of codependency there. And I'm like, man, I just want to do my own thing today, And she really wanted to see me because she had a rough day. And he's like, well, let me ask you a question. He's like, you've got one of your best friends out in New York, And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what if he just hit you up? He's like, I'm at DFW airport. I'm going to be here for 4 hours. Do you have time for dinner? He's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to have dinner with him. He's like, what about the girl? I was like, I'll tell him my best friend's in town. Like, He's like, so why aren't you your own best friend? He's like, what if you treated yourself every day that you had flown in every day? And from that, I'm like, okay. So I attempted to do that. It was kind of rocky. But then when Loka came in, oh, Loka's in town. I'm going to go hang out with Loka, which is just hanging out myself. I actually came up with the term, or not a word, called Louve. Louve. That's Louve. It means self-love. You put the U in love. And so when you're self-loving, you're setting boundaries, you're doing things that fill your cup up, rest. You're able to be what I call the selfist. People, especially overgivers, they're like, you need to be selfish, you need to be selfish. You can't do that. There's a woman in a retreat said, change it from selfish to selfist. Selfist is about the self. You're not trying to hurt anybody else. You're trying to take care of yourself so you can take care of other people. And you don't necessarily have to take care of them, but you're taking care of yourself so you have the capacity to do that. And so I'm like, when I'm moving, I'm like, sometimes a friend's like, hey, you want to go out to dinner now? I was like, no, I'm just moving. And they're like, oh, snap. I don't have to go into like, oh, make up excuse or anything like that. Straight up, I'm just filling my cup up.
I think the alter ego and I'm moving, I did a similar thing where I would say I'm in the lab to my friends. I'm in the lab, and therefore they knew that I'm working on something. And it's us using that term where you don't have to explain yourself. Like you said, they understand, and it's kind of fun as well to say.
Yeah.
I'm moving, I'm in the lab, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, it's mysterious, right? It's like, oh man, what's Garrett up to? What's Loka up to? Absolutely.
Oh, the alter ego, I think, is so important. I want to touch on this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so, to someone who is struggling, and why should they create an alter ego to help them?
I always tell people create an alter ego if it's been difficult to make that shift for you. And so I tell people it's like, look at the people around you that you admire the most. And do you admire them because they have something that you don't, that you want to kind of be like? And if that's the case, well, you do have that in you. You just haven't realized it yet. So create that alter ego. With all these people combined, you've created your own Captain Planet, right? And so put that person together so that you can actually start making that change. Because a lot of times we identify with our trauma and who we've been and our past, especially around our family. Because no matter how much you want to do it, family will always check you. You know? Like even my father, like my grandmother, she's 93 years old. My father's 67. And I see how my grandmother treats my father. It's beautiful, but she treats him like the son that he's always been, not the grown-up 67-year-old. And he's like, I'll always just be her son. And so, especially with family, they're always going to treat you like the brother or the sister that you've always been. The parents are always going to treat you like the child, no matter what way that is. And so I realized when you create that alter ego, especially when I would hear my birth name, I would translate it in my head to Loka, you know? And so if Loka wants to do this, great. Or you can't talk to Loka this way, because Alok would take it all day long. And so I think it's important to create that alter ego if you feel like you have not been able to take those steps and set those boundaries and to do things for yourself. It's just a fun little exercise, too, to be in joy. You look at all these superheroes, right? If you really look at it, Clark Kent, Superman, right? It's an alter ego because when he's Superman, he's not acting and thinking like Clark Kent. He's absolutely not. Yeah, he's got that superpower. He knows as Clark Kent, he is Superman. As Superman, he knows he's Clark Kent. And so, and when he's Clark Kent, you could see that he could shift into Superman thoughts right away. But when he's Superman, he's not thinking like Clark Kent.
Oh, it's a great way to just separate the two.
Yeah.
And therefore, for people that struggle with, going 100% in all in on something or nothing, whether it's, I can never say no to engagements with friends, or, if I am going to say no, I'm always going to say no. Yeah. And therefore, if you can separate it, Sunday is my Loka day, and Saturday is my Alok day.
Yeah.
And you can separate like that, and you can tell other people or tell yourself that, no, I've made a commitment to myself that I'm this alter ego, and it will help me mentally say what I need to say to do what I need to do.
Yeah. And what I actually found in my own life is Loka really influenced Alok in such a way to where they became the same. And so Alok sets boundaries, Loka sets boundaries. Alok honors himself, Loka honors himself. And so you'll find the more joy you do, the more joyful you become. The more you do your alter ego and still honor who you've been, they merge into one.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So now you don't have to have a Loka day and an Alok day. Now they can be called whatever, but Loka just helps Alok get to where he needs to be. He helps that inner child grow his wings, get the strength, have the confidence, and you call yourself whatever you want after that,
I'm going to butcher it, but there's a lot of podcasters that I've listened to, and it's like the person that creates the problems is not going to be the same person that solves the problems.
Yeah.
And so you have to change your identity if you want to change your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you had to give 3 steps for someone to create their alter ego, what would they be?
So the first step is look at who you admire around you. what are those things out there that you like in them, and start writing those things down, because you can come up with a name, but if you don't know who that person is, and then also look at, okay, what are the things that you haven't been able to do for yourself? You haven't been able to set the boundaries? What are the things that are holding you back from living your best life? So those are the first two things. And then the third is have fun with the name. Play with it, have fun, get in a state of joy, sing, dance, go to nature, whatever, get into that joyful place, go work out, but when everything's feeling good, just start thinking about like who you want to be. And so even put on the clothes that you love the best.
Most confident in, and embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny because there's this company, I go blank on their name right now. I think it's called Super X. They make sweats that look like Power Ranger outfits. And my struggle in life has been working out. And now I put on that it's a sweatsuit, it's a tracksuit, but it looks like a Power Ranger outfit. And man, the way I go to the gym when I look at myself in the mirror, oh my God, I'm the Green Ranger. Oh man, yeah. Call me Tommy.
There we
that
go.
That might be my level up sort of alter ego. So yeah, it makes a difference when you embody that alter ego. It's nuts. You feel like that superhero because you are.
Your mind is so powerful. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, 100%.
So you mentioned earlier how boundaries can be difficult, and setting them. What is your take on boundaries and how people can implement them to live a better life and a more joyful life?
So the way I did it is once Loka came in, right? Like a lot of times what happens if you haven't been good at setting boundaries, you'll let people come right up to that fence line. And so what I started doing is I basically built that fence, barbed wired up, put a bunch of landmines, right? So they didn't even get close. And what I mean by that is whenever you're looking at setting boundaries, say it's simply like someone's like, hey, can I come over? Right? Or can you help me with this? Check what your true intention is. Do you genuinely want to help that person? And if not, if you're doing it from a place of guilt, know that you're actually doing yourself and them a disservice, because it's dishonest. You don't actually want to help them. And so when you know what your intention is and you look at it that way, because as an overgiver, it's tough to set that boundary. So when you reframe it in your mind that you're actually creating a false situation here, that you want to do it, and come back and let them know that if you do want to help them, maybe this is just not the right time, you're actually giving them an opportunity to honor yourself and honor your time. And so you're helping you, but you're helping your relationship with that person, because the more you let that person come through your boundary, the more you're solidifying this boundary crossing relationship that will inevitably either affect your mental health or affect this relationship negatively. So it won't happen long term. So if you're looking at the long game, set that boundary. It'll be great for both of you.
It's hard to think about the long term in that moment, but it's so important because your time is such a valuable resource.
Yeah.
And you want to make solid foundational friendships or relationships with those closest to you.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a slow thing. What I tell people all the time is one of my closest friends told me this quote by a CEO. He said, "You cannot change what you do not measure. You cannot change what you do not measure." And so when it came to my boundary setting, it wasn't like, oh, I flipped the switch and I'm like, oh, I'm looking to a long-term relationship, I can stop everything. I literally, and this may take a little bit of work, but if you really want to make a change, tracked how many times I let people cross boundaries. So if you're like, hey, Loka, can I come over? And I don't want you to come over, but you came over because I let you come over. I marked it, come out to dinner. Can you help me with this? Boom, boom, boom. Same thing with the meditation awareness. As soon as you put an awareness to something, your subconscious mind starts to pick up on it. And so what you'll find is if you just start tracking every single time that you let someone cross a boundary that they shouldn't, you'll start actually creating the strategies already, because you're seeing where we're going. We're losing the game. right? Anytime you're losing the game, you try to change it. But if you don't know that you're losing the game because you're not keeping score, then you just keep on playing. And so, like, what I told earlier was like the technique, but literally, if you're like, I have not been able to stop these boundaries, just start tracking it and don't beat yourself up for it. If you go a month and you're hitting 10 cross boundaries a day, and that's happening towards the end of the month, well, then the next month, you're just looking to say no once out of 10 times. The next month, you're looking to say no twice out of 10 times. And you slowly build it that way because it can be very scary to set those boundaries right away because these people may not like me. They may fall out of my life. And I will tell you later as you get into more boundary setting, the right people will fall out of your life. It happened to me very clearly. Codependency. I was the king of codependency, right? I'm like, yeah, give it to me. But once I started setting those boundaries, they didn't like it. And I've heard the term, you've changed. And it took me a while to realize, yeah, for the better.
Exactly. And I think it's important to understand your feelings when you are unfortunately crossing a boundary. And then when you say, no, I'm going to hold the line and understand how you're feeling then and how you feel at the end of the month, when it's 10 boundaries that have been crossed versus when it's 3 boundaries that have been crossed.
Yeah. And that's where journaling will come in. Someone crossed a boundary, you're there. How'd you feel about it? Write about it.
Same thing about what you, was it about the measurement? It was.
You cannot change what you do not measure.
I think that's also great. A lot of people say they don't have time for certain things, such as having joy. Yeah. Creating joy, doing something that they find joy in. So do a time audit.
Yeah.
Do that for a week.
Yep.
You will be amazed at what you find.
Yeah.
And then there you go. Now that you've done your time audit, now intentionally insert tasks or that you need to complete, but also joy that you want to do to feel better.
Yeah.
And see how much more time you've created out of the same amount of 24 hours. Yeah. You'd be amazed.
I love that. I didn't actually think about the time audit thing. That's incredible. I would take that time audit and also add something to it where I call it the whole joy hacking thing, right? So one of the things to do is I love that I don't have enough time. I'm like, great, not a problem. Take something from the Japanese. They have a term called Kaizen. It's referring to continuous improvement. What if you're continuously improving joy? And what I mean by that is one of the ways I've learned Kaizen is they say do one thing for 1 minute at the same time every single day. And what they're saying is doing it in a way of improving it. So if you don't feel like you have enough time, do one thing every day that brings you joy for just 1 minute. Whatever it is. Absolutely whatever it is. Then that 1 minute may turn to 2 minutes, turns to 3 minutes, turns to 5 minutes. And so you're building it. And so let's just say, I keep referring to dancing because I love dancing. I dance at the beginning of the day. All right, I start it that way. Well, now what if I do it right before lunch? What if I do it at 3 o'clock? And then I do it at like 6 o'clock. So I've done it 4 times. I've done it throughout the day. So I'm taking these little joy breaks. So no matter what the stress is, the anxiety is, the day is coming on me, I'm just microdosing a little bit on joy out there, blowing bubbles, skipping, whatever it is, changing my state, throughout the day. And so the more that happens, you'll actually find out that you're going to free up space in your mind and your body to want to do more joy and start looking for more joy. And so I like taking the time audit because a lot of times, like, you need to figure out where you can put it. But even if people have that, they may not have built that habit to having joy. So combining the two is helpful because now they're like, now that I have the joy, well, actually I have all this time. Let me just fill it with this joy.
Just start. You never know when a minute will turn into 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's everything in life, right? Go to the gym, start the project, and start on that idea. It's just start. It will flow the way it's meant to flow.
I like to end with just some kind of more personal questions as well as random-ish questions.
Yeah.
What's an embarrassing story you have, whether it's business or personal?
I know this one. So it was at my best friend's wedding back in 2012. And so in the Indian tradition, in the Indian tradition, they walk around a fire 7 times. And there's a fun little game at the end where the bride and groom sit down. Whoever sits down first wears the pants in the relationship. That's the joke. So everyone's watching who sits down first. So they're walking around the fire. And my best friend, he was a DJ, MC, loves the attention. So he's going around the fire, smiling, they're taking pictures, waving, being entertaining, all that. Or I see his wife ready to look at this chair. But he's just in the zone. So I'm like, yo, psst, yo. And then his mom is like, hey, make sure she doesn't sit down first. I go, what do you want me to do? She's like, go up there. So it's like kind of get up next to the stage. They're walking. He's coming around the corner. She's coming around the corner. He's barely paying any attention. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And so they go to sit down, and I don't know why, but I instinctively stick my hands out there. Okay? There's photo, there's video, there's 400 people. But she sits down. My hands are on her butt. Okay. She looks horrified. I'm like, and my best friend is just smiling out, looking at everyone laughing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I look at his mom and she's like, what are you? I'm like, exactly what you told me. So yeah, I mean, I carried that for years and years and years. My best friend was completely fine with it. She was fine with it eventually. But in the moment, I'm like, I don't get embarrassed very easily. But I think grabbing my best friend's wife's butt on their wedding day in front of everybody.
That's up there.
Yeah. Got me there for sure.
It just shows how competitive you are, where you're like, I need my best friend to win. I will do
like,
anything.
And I didn't even think. I'm like, how do I stop this? You know, I should have pulled out I don't know.
That's where I thought you were going. Was I pulled the chair and she fell. But
handful.
Oh, man. Loka, that is funny. Well, I was going to say the next one is share a memorable aha moment or realization that significantly influenced your approach to business or life. But I think we found it right there, you know?
Let's see. Oh, man. Something that really... You know what shifted me in business a bit was after 2020. Because I'd built this hotel company with my brother. But in the midst of it, like, I realized that people were looking for joy. And so the aha moment was like, why do we have to separate building a business, especially in real estate, and joy? Because I started to see a lot of my peer group building, and they were in that rat race, and they were going. And then I looked at everybody in that rat race. But then when 2020 hit, it's like everything started coming to the surface. And so the aha moment is, after that, I'm like, I don't want to just do real estate. I want to bring joy to the world. And now real estate's calling me back, and I'm like, okay, I actually want to come in from the joyful standpoint. Let's do this joyfully and not be so competitive and connect and help each other. But you can only do that when you're being your complete authentic self. And so getting people, especially in the business world, into their state of joy, telling you that you can actually build your company in a joyful way, and that stress is going to come, anxiety is going to come, fear is going to come. But let's keep that at bay to 20%, 30% tops. Because I've seen in my own life that when you do it joyfully, it's so much easier. I tell people all the time that, you know, people look at building these companies, they're stressed and they're fear and they're anxious and they get it and they're looking for these goals, and they finally hit that top and they hit that success and they feel that joy momentarily. But then there's the months, the years, everything before that they didn't feel it in. And other people will go through that process, but do it in a optimistic, joyful, the best I can. And sometimes they get to the top and they fail and they lose their joy momentarily. But they had that joy in the process. I say keep the joy in the journey. What I found is if you really keep the joy in the journey, there's a higher success rate because you're doing business with people that understand you, that feel your authenticity, because people want to do business with real people. And so that's what shifted for me, saying, okay, let's build businesses in a joyful way.
I, that's beautiful. And I think that you'll become more successful doing that, like you had mentioned.
Yeah. I've already seen it in my life. Like, I love doing what I'm doing because now that I'm speaking on joy and now this is my mission, I realize I have to check myself every single day. Am I practicing what I'm preaching? And I've evolved even from the last 2 years. I thought I knew so much, and I did. But now I'm learning so much more, and I'm implementing so much more, and I'm shifting so much more. And now everything's just coming because I'm the most joyful version of myself. And when you genuinely want to help people get into their joy, they actually want to help you back. And when they genuinely feel your joy because you care, they want to help you back. And so if you go out there and just work on yourself and being in your joy, and people can feel that off of you, you're going to connect because part of joy is connection. And your connections will be deeper. And it won't only be about business. You'll get in that personal life. And things will just magical start happening.
Because it's from that genuine, authentic place.
Exactly. Yep.
The power of reciprocity.
One of the things I tell people a lot when it comes to networking, I've got one of my best friends that's female friends. Her name is Melissa Kigawa. She taught me something beautiful. You go to these networking events and things like that, and people want to help you, but they want to be helped. And so, whenever you meet somebody, you don't know exactly how you can help them. It doesn't come from here. Neither of them. They may be able to connect with you with someone, but it's really that connection relationship that's built. And what she tells people genuinely is like, I don't know. I don't know, but let's see where our friendship goes. And I know something will naturally come out as we connect and get to know each other deeper. And as I've started to talk to people about that, it's not the one time that we talk. We end up connecting later on because it's a true, genuine, let's stay connected because you never know what's going to show up, but you get more into their life story. You get into what brings them joy. You have these great conversations, and the things that actually come out with the connection or whoever they're going to connect with you later has been a lot more, I guess, higher quality. Like it starts to go somewhere versus like, let me help you with this and just connect you to this person because it's coming from here. When it comes through here, it's much more impactful.
And I also say to that, it's less transactional.
Exactly.
Because you actually mean it. You actually do want to help them. You actually have built this relationship where you genuinely care about the person and their interests.
Yeah, exactly. You know their true needs. Not necessarily maybe the need they think off the top of their head, but as you get to know them, like, oh, you could use this or this or this.
We've definitely covered a lot. Do you have anything else to share with the audience that you'd like to leave on?
The only thing I'd like to leave on is make joy the metric of your success. If you can make joy the metric of your success, everything else will fall into place because you're taking care of yourself. That means being intentional about your joy, having a joy routine, making your joy lists, doing the things that ground you, do the things that help you release emotions. Have that whole routine start to come together. And even if it's just starting with your joy lists and your butterflies and butterflies, start somewhere because it will literally change your life.
Loka, thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. That's beautiful, and I can't wait to continue this.
Thanks so much, Garrett.